Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Champions Podcast with myself, Heather,
Tim Squires.
and today we have a special guest with us, somebody that I'm honored to know and love, and she's a dear friend of mine, and she has an incredible story, and she does so many incredible things. So we have the pleasure of having my friend Ashley Blue Bonnema with us today, and we're going to just hear about her story and just all the things that she's into and just how she kind of contributes to not only the CF world, but the professional singing world. So, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is really an honor. So thank you so much.
So, your obviously your personal health journey starts with cystic fibrosis, but I know you've been doing obviously singing as long as I've known you, but really, where did your singing take place? Because obviously, singing probably has helped you tremendously with coping with CF. So when did you first like start your singing?
You that is a way back. Um, I remember being in the car when I was like 3 or 4 years old. My brother also had cystic fibrosis, and at that time he was at a clinic that was about 6 hours away from my hometown, at the University of Iowa. And so my parents would drive to see him, or my mom would stay there, and my dad and I would drive back and forth. And I remember sitting in the car in the back seat in my little car seat, and my dad playing 80s music and singing along to the radio. And my dad will always tell you, like, I had actions to everything and would choreograph it from the back seat and like sing along with it. And so that is where I like to say my musical journey began, was all of those road trips that we would take to CF care centers and to the hospital. And also, when I was young as well, before I went to school, my dad flipped houses. And on his, that was his like day off job. And so instead of me going to like a daycare, he would bring me along to the work sites, set up a little TV, and play MTV music videos for me. And so I would, MTV was my cartoons as a child, I guess. So that was my babysitter. So just music has honestly just been such an instrumental part of my existence as for as long as I can remember. And growing up then it was, listening to music and singing along to music. And it I think, looking back now, that being a real means of escape for me. And that you could immerse yourself in an alternate reality, because reality itself was so difficult and so uncertain. And so music was just my stability and my escape route.
And
So
that
yeah.
is so true because like I can remember when I first picked up the guitar and now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, what would I have done if I had
Yeah.
not taken to music? Because it is an escape. You can, people don't understand it's not so serious about music, but when you can sit down and for you, especially like playing piano or singing, you realize, oh my gosh, I've spent like 2, 3 hours doing this. But
Right.
it didn't matter to you because it was escaping. Maybe it was you. I mean, you still had to do your pills and your treatments and everything, but it was just something that was not a hospital, not having to focus every single second about your breath or just all the little things. And so I know that has been like just tremendous with coping and even like your situation with your brother and just knowing that that was such a difficult journey to face and being able to have that I'm sure helped. And now I obviously know with Breathe Bravely and how you all started that, but I don't remember, and I probably should exactly the year you founded all that. But when did you kind of come up with the idea? Okay, I wanna present this to the world, and it kind of took off.
Yeah, during my kind of undergrad years at college, I was a music major, and also a French major. And for most of my undergrad, very few people knew that I had CF. It was one of those things that I kept very hidden for a very long time. Part of it was because, I mean, and you both will understand this, like living with a chronic illness and one that is progressive, you realize how that impacts your family and friends. And, we don't want to be the cause of pain and discomfort to those that we love. So I did everything I possibly could to hide it and seem okay. And, while I was being a musician in undergrad, I didn't want to be measured against my peers as somebody who is doing great, even though, they have CF and they can't breathe. So I got through undergrad. After a couple years, I went back to school and got my graduate degree in music performance. And I was 27, 28, I think, when I went back to school. Um, and it was one of those things that like I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do with my master's, but I knew that I had to, that my life depended on it. And, whether or not I was really in tune, for lack of better words, of, what the root cause was for me wanting to go back. Looking back now, it all kind of plays into the life that I have now and the purpose that I feel very passionate about. So I was in graduate school and I didn't want anybody to know about CF again because, again, I didn't want to be measured with the idea of CF kind of taking center stage. And CF was, as we know, being very ruthless and heartless and didn't care that I had those plans. And so CF was progressing pretty extremely in those years. I was dealing with a lot of hemoptysis, just infection upon infection and just months and months and months on end of IV antibiotics. And so, during grad school, I was forced to tell a lot of people about my CF, even though I didn't want to. It was kind of forcing my hand to do so. And during my second year of graduate school, so my final year, but that fall, I had sinus surgery and things continued to progress in a very negative way. And I was transferred to the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis for care because my team here was like, we've done everything we possibly can do. We don't know what else to do for you. Things are moving south very quickly. So I was transferred to the University of Minnesota, had to pull out of the rest of the semester for my graduate school studies. And, all of a sudden we were having very serious and dire discussions about lung transplant. My team was very real with me and was like, this can go either way and it's moving very quickly. So we need to be on top of this decision and get things lined up so that you're ready to be listed immediately, or you make that other decision, right? That, transplant isn't for you. And so I think both of you can reckon with this of, again, having unchosen circumstances that are controlling your life. Um, and I was devastated with the idea of possibly never singing again, or it being not having singing in my life because I felt like that was what made me me, but also was so life-giving to me. So luckily, that is not where my path led at that time. I went back to graduate school against many people's negative ideas that I maybe should go back to graduate school. So that semester, and I was going to be damned if I was not going to finish that semester. Um, but I got to the end of that semester and had to do a graduate recital for my degree. And, it was hard fought those last type of 6 months to get to that recital and to get to a place where I could perform again. Going from 20 some percent lung function to, 40 some percent lung function in that time frame and being able to perform. So like when I took the stage that final time, it was, not a feeling of success of like, yay, I performed all of this music and, studied so hard for this and practiced so hard. It was more so that I had won in a battle for my life. And, it was really in that moment I understood how much singing saved my life. And, you're able to look back on your life and realize the instrumental part, music and singing, really played in my existence and my health. And so I had a dear friend, who, after I graduated, looked at me and said, "What are you going to do now?" And, at that time, I had been writing this blog, kind of exposing my life with CF to my friends and family. And, I said, I think that I want to start a nonprofit that specializes in sharing the art of singing with other people with CF. So, they might know the life-giving effects as well. So in 2015, then, Breathe Bravely was born as a nonprofit organization. And we debuted our Singspire program in 2017. So here we are today, and I feel like we haven't looked back since.
And Singspire is so amazing too. But and I've had the honor of being a part of your little, I guess you call it virtual thons, because it's all virtual,
Mhm.
and obviously debuting music, but it's helping give back to the nonprofit to continue your mission of providing those lessons. And I can just only imagine the reward. You like sit back and are taking it all in every time you even have a lesson scheduled, because you're like, wow, it is connecting with people. And it's so nerve-wracking, especially, I mean, I'm obviously not nowhere near of a lead singer, but the fact that people have the courage, to say, hey, I want to get better at this. I want to, put my voice on the line to see where I can go with it. I think is just awesome. And to see where it's come from years ago to now. And I mean, like, even with your little virtual thon things you do, people like sit and wait. Like, I know I kept saying, okay, it's not that day yet. Okay, let me set my reminder. It's coming on the, and I'm sure so many people do that because it's just so awesome to be able to see what's come together over there. But you do more than just the virtual thons with this. You do like I don't, you do a few in-person things too, like
Yeah.
raising money and for anybody that wants to check more about what we're talking about, is bravely.org. Is that right? Yep, I
Yep.
got it right.
Yeah.
and
Perfect.
and it's also on Facebook and all those places, so you can always check that out. But I just think it's so incredible, like, especially as someone with CF, thinking about the breath that it takes to
I
be
was
able to
just about to ask
expand your
that with the
lung.
question. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, just the breath that it takes to be able to sing. And then not everybody obviously is transplant. They're taking these lessons and then they're learning. My mind goes to, they're learning breath control and how to expand their lungs and take in, and it has to help their breathing in some way to kind of learn using their diaphragm and just all that stuff. And so I'll let Champ ask a question since he was going to ask about that.
Well, I want to start before we get into some of the fun parts of it. What does it mean for you? What does that gift mean to you, actually? Because I can just see the passion in your eyes when you talk about it, and just the being able to share that gift. What does it feel like to you to know that you're making an impact of that magnitude with your voice, but also just with something that you've been given, and there's not really much you can do to change it. It is what it is. I mean, we're kind of you're in that season or in that situation of life that you've been given, the card that you've been dealt, and here we are. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think you both kind of touched on it is the impact. First of all, I would have never fathomed the impact that this organization and this programming and just the mission of this organization could have had in the last 10 years. And I think what one of the most beautiful things that I get to witness is people discover their voice, but most of all, discover their breath, that they no longer are owned by the breath that they feel is being stolen from them, but that they are the ones that own their breath themselves. That regardless of what a disease is doing to you, that you always have the last say. You have that control and it's yours. It's not about the amount of breath that fills your lungs, it's what you do with it that really matters. And so I always say to my students, I just said this the other day when I was talking to a student and who I've had for years, and just talking about their growth journey as a musician and them understanding how to use their breath and how to use their voice. And I always say, I, as an instructor, hope that my students get as much from me as I get from them because I continue to be inspired by them. I continue to learn. I continue to have my passion refueled for this medium and for this mission because of them.
And it's not only so I know that you're not the only instructor with this program because it's that big. It's that big now. There's several different instructors. What has it meant to you to just have those friendships with the other instructors to kind of, I guess, in a team effort to kind of have that reward?
Yeah, and that is one of the most beautiful things about that is when we started this program, it first was going to be in person because I live in a city that has a CF care center that has a larger population actually. And so I was like, okay, this will be great. It'll be in person, but I can't teach them because we with CF can't be in the same space as each other. It's not recommended to do so for cross-infection purposes. And so I am lucky enough to have really great colleagues and really who happen to be some of my best friends as well. And so went to them and said, I have this idea. Would you be willing to sign on to this? And through, first of all, they were like, yes, absolutely. Like, we think this is a great idea. And then through some other channels, we discovered that most of the population that's around here is rural. And so, I have to drive a quite a bit of a distance in order to get to the care center. And so that in-person model wasn't going to be our most effective and, wasn't going to have the greatest impact that we wanted it to have. So, this was 2017, the days before anybody knew what Zoom or Skype or anything like that was. And so when I went to my colleagues and said, hey, we're going to do this program virtually, I thought they would like take off running and be like, that's not how we teach music. That's not how we learn music. That's not what we signed up for. We don't know how to do this. And all of them were like, we'll figure it out. And, I can tell you honestly, to this day, they are truly some of the greatest teachers there possibly is. I would put their skills up to any in-person teaching any day, hands down. They are so well crafted at their expertise, and their passion is what really drives this program. So being able to, and it was really a privilege to me because yeah, I get to be a part of this CF community. It's what I've always known, but to have these other instructors that don't have CF, to have them invited to be a part of the CF community is something that's really special that they get to experience. So yeah,
And
there are
so,
currently, yeah.
yeah,
Heather,
go
can I
ahead. I
go
didn't
back?
mean to
Can I
cut you.
go back?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I go back for a second? Okay. So I want to go back, Ashley, because you said something in the first part of the interview that really just hit me a little different, and that was kind of the self pride. And if this is a personal question, you can say I don't want to answer it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to ask it, just being curious, because you said it was kind of like I didn't want to affect the other people in our family or in our circle, and so I didn't want them to be affected by this. How has that changed for you, or has it changed? Because I feel like sometimes when we do kind of take ourselves off of that, I don't want to be, I'm not thinking you want it to be a burden, but when we take ourselves off of that frame of mind, it's like, oh, they are celebrating this because they want to come alongside me. They want to celebrate the gifts and the graces in the midst of it. They want to walk it with me. And so sometimes it's a personal thing for different folks. What has that been like for you? Because when you said that, I was just like, interesting. Like she's so fired up and passionate about what she does, but yet she wanted to keep. And I totally get that. I do, but I just thought that was so fascinating how you
Yeah,
started there. So
yeah, it is. It's something that I still really struggle with. Um,
okay.
when I started to kind of come out about my life with CF and its effect on my life and the realities that I faced. I had some dear friends that were trying to like kind of coax me out of the shadows with it. Who were saying, we know what's going on. We see how CF is affecting you. We see the struggle that it really is, and that things are progressing and it's getting more difficult. And let us be a part of that. And, finally, not that I didn't trust that people would. It was more so, like you said, I didn't want to be a burden to them. I didn't want to be the focus of their care. I wanted to be the care provider, right? And I wanted to be the support system. And I didn't want to have that reciprocated to me. It's stemming from a lot of watching my brother die for years, and watching CF steal his life and steal our family and steal, that kind of spark within my parents as well. And realizing how devastating this disease isn't only to the individual, but to the people that love that person. And I didn't want to be a cause of that pain and that suffering. And, that is something that I still really struggle with. To be very honest with you, I feel like kind of ebb and flow within my life, where I'll be like, okay, I'm okay with it. This is my truth. This is who I am. But that usually comes when it's a season of like healthfulness where things are stable, where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fine. Things are great. Yeah, you want to come alongside me and go along this journey? Sure. And part of it is because it's not a exceedingly bumpy road. But when things get tough and things get ugly, that's when I like to push people out and like to think that I'm protecting them. And so, I would say in the last year and a half, things have been a little more bumpy. And so I find myself being more, and I hate to use this word, it has a bad connotation to it, but like secretive, right? And it's just more that I'm silent about it because, again, I don't want to worry people and I can't fix it or I don't have a solution to it. And so I don't want to involve them or worry them or, again, be a cause for anybody's discomfort.
And I can imagine you being like that too, but you got blessed with like a loyal husband that wants to be every step of the way with you, which after everything your family had been through, to find a partner that just is so dedicated to being there every step of the way. How has that been for you to kind of connect with him and to kind of build your life? Obviously, you don't have human children, but you have, like me, you have four-legged children, which are just like beautiful, beautiful dogs. And how has that been for y'all to kind of to build your life and kind of go through these bumps in the road and kind of knowing, okay, well, we can't really predict what maybe the next 30 days looks like, but we're just kind of enjoying the now. And I think even with my journey, I kind of say, like, we're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But at the same time, we can't get so caught up in that that we can't appreciate the now and live like within today.
Right. It is, I am very blessed that I have a life partner that values me for me and not this idea of maybe what we life or what we thought our life was going to be like. Mark and I have been together for like 22 years. So he knew me at a very different stage of life when we first met. He was a senior in high school and I was a sophomore in high school. And, I always say I found my life partner very, very early in life because we don't know what that life is going to look like. And, I might not have the same amount of time with someone that, our peers might have or that are healthy. And so he has had the opportunity to run many times through health difficulties and challenges. And, when you start out in a relationship, you have these utopic ideas of what your life is going to look like. And, is there going to be that white picket fence with, what is it, 2.5 children and a dog? And that, became more and more clear the more our relationship went on that that was not going to be the case. And, he has stood by me time and time again, unequivocally, without a doubt, and, no questions asked. Um, and for example, right now we are getting ready to move. Um, because of insurance issues that we continue to have, living in South Dakota and being seen at a hospital in Minnesota. And so we've finally reached the point where he looked at me a couple of months ago and said, "We're done. We're not fighting this anymore. We need to move to Minnesota. We need to be in state to get us insurance that will be covered and that will be closer to your care center." And, it still makes me emotional. The idea of like leaving our home for that we've had lived a city we've lived in for 20 years and this house that we love and that we've built together and everything that is familiar that you feel represents you and his family is here, my family is here, our friends are here, but to have him say, "Nope, you are more important to me, and your longevity and your health is more important to me than any of those things." Champ, going back to you talking about, like the pride and not wanting to let people in. I feel like that is very conflicting to me right now because I'm the cause of uprooting our life and all of a sudden making these huge changes and concessions. And Heather, you were talking about, like learning to live for now, but in my mind, I can't help but think about the future and think about, okay, we make this big move. What happens if the other shoe drops and things get really bad really quickly? Will it be worth it in the end? And I think that is, something that maybe we continue to struggle with and question, our purpose and our validity, um, and especially in correlation with those that love us most.
Yeah, I think it's just a testament to just how much Mark loves you to say, you say, well, we're uprooting our life, but you are his life. You and your dogs are his life. You're his family, and so to just be able to have someone that so selflessly says, "Hey, let's do what's best for your care." I mean, that's just so amazing. And even though it seems kind of daunting, okay, moving to a new place, it's kind of starting over. The same way, it could be an undisguised blessing. You may find better, like more beautiful friendships. He can find coworkers, to become friends. I mean, just all kinds of maybe a new favorite restaurant. I mean, I'm just thinking food, I guess, but dinner time. But you know, a new favorite place that you like to go that y'all can go together and y'all it may become a new favorite place that y'all do date nights. And I mean, just the little things that come together to make it better And obviously, you can still see your family, and I'm sure they'll try to make it their way to see you. But I guess me and Champ always say this, it's always about embracing the seasons of change. And we don't have control sometimes of what those seasons of change look like. But all we can control is how we respond to that change. And so I think it's just beautiful that you even have such support to be able to do whatever is best for your care. And I know this year has been, seems like even longer than a year, but really been challenging. And I just admire how you just embrace everything with grace and your mentality to just fight another day. And I encourage anybody, if they want to read any of her, you still blog and all that, and so if you want to read any of her stuff, she's a beautiful writer as well, and she just puts it so eloquently to even say us a lot of stuff about illness, to say you can, I mean, I'll read some of the stuff and just be like, wow, just to say you take from that, and it's like you're speaking to yourself, but you're speaking to other people and say, hey, don't give up, and that's such a powerful thing to do. And so I love you dearly, and I've always been so honored just to be a part of everything in a small way that you do. And I think what you do, not only with your personal journey, but just Sing Spire and Breathe Bravely and all that, is just so powerful. And I'm going to give Champ the mic to the very end to close us out today, but feel free to share any of your socials if you make sure I get them right, so that people know to check out all your stuff. Because I do want people to definitely check out Breathe Bravely and Sing Spire.
Thank you so much. This has been seriously one of the
Well, I'm honored to go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, this has been really
No.
sweet to me. So thank you so much for the invitation to be a part of this with both of you.
Well, Ashley, I wanna close it with a couple of things. Number one, I this is not the only time you're gonna be on the podcast. I think after today, and I'm trying not to get choked up listening to it, but you've got other parts of the story that I think people need to hear. And when you feel comfortable sharing those, we're ready. Because watching you today was incredible. And the second thing that I want to say to you is keep fighting. Uh, and I know I can just tell in your demeanor that things have been difficult recently. But just know that even in the difficulty, people have seen bravery, because that's what I saw today. I know that you're getting ready to move, and that's going to be a wild and wonderful crazy. But you're going to inspire even more people through that. And like Heather said, having that life partner who says, I don't care about all the other things except you. That's a gift. And thank you for sharing that. And thank you for your honesty, even in the tough questions. Because I and many others are going to be inspired by this. So thank you so much for giving up your time. You're incredible.
Oh, thank you. All we have to give is our truth, right?
Yes, yes.
Well,
And I definitely second that. You are incredible. And like I said, I love you dearly. And you inspire me. I know our journeys are obviously the same with CF, but also a little bit different with what we've had to embrace and endure. And like I said, you inspire, I think, more people than you realize. And so just keep going. And like I said, Champ's already said it. We'll have you back anytime that you want to share more. And so we hope y'all enjoyed this episode, and definitely check Ashley out and all the amazing things she does. And we thank y'all, and God bless.